There comes a moment in a man's life when he finally understands something that changes everything, not just in his relationships, but in his entire existence. It's the moment he realizes that manipulation only works on the version of him that doesn't know himself yet. And when you start waking up to your own value, when you start seeing the patterns clearly, when you stop reacting emotionally to every shift in someone else's behavior, the entire power dynamic flips instantly because a man who can't be manipulated is a man who can't be controlled, and that is the rarest kind of strength in this world. She didn't expect you to reach this level. She didn't think you'd ever question the push-pull, the mixed signals, the sudden coldness followed by sudden warmth. She assumed your heart would always override your logic, that your desire for her would blind you to the tactics she used to keep you off balance. But nope, something inside you shifted, not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You began to see that every guilt trip, every silent treatment, every emotional twist was designed to keep you uncertain of yourself. And once a man becomes aware of that, once he develops the inner stillness to observe instead of react, he becomes untouchable. Before we dive deeper into this journey of Stoic resilience, make sure you like the video, drop a comment below, and subscribe with notifications on to become a Stoic soldier. Thank you for being here. Now, let's begin. Manipulation doesn't start with something dramatic. It starts in the shadows, in the small moments where your emotions haven't caught up to your awareness yet. It thrives in uncertainty, in the gray areas where you doubt yourself just enough that someone else can shape your reality for you. She counted on that uncertainty. She relied on your old patterns, the part of you that wanted to fix things, the part of you that feared losing her, the part of you that confused intensity with love. When someone senses that you haven't fully anchored into yourself yet, they learn exactly which buttons to press. A little silence here, a little guilt there, a little withdrawal to make you chase, a little affection to pull you back in. It's a cycle designed to keep you emotionally off balance, always seeking reassurance, always trying to understand what you did wrong, always adjusting your behavior just to regain a sense of connection. And the truth is, manipulation cannot survive where there is clarity. It cannot thrive where there is self-respect. It cannot function when a man knows his values and stands firmly in them. But before that awakening, she believed she could shift your emotions like weather, hot, cold, unpredictable, because uncertainty made you vulnerable. The moment you start seeing this clearly, the game begins to fall apart, because a man who understands why manipulation works can also understand how to end it. And that's exactly what you're stepping into now. Recognition is the beginning of freedom. There's a moment, quiet, subtle, almost spiritual, when you finally step back far enough to see the entire pattern laid out in front of you, the mixed signals that kept you guessing, the sudden warmth after days of cold distance, the guilt that slid in whenever you pulled back, the way every conflict somehow became your fault, even when your intentions were pure. For the longest time, it didn't feel like manipulation. It felt like confusion. It felt like emotional turbulence. It felt like you were trying to solve a puzzle that kept rearranging itself every time you got close to understanding it. But then something in you shifted. You began to notice the repetition. You noticed how her timing always aligned with your emotional state, pulling away when you were steady, pulling you close when you started to drift. You realized that your reactions were being shaped not by truth, but by her ability to control the emotional rhythm between you. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. That's the moment when power begins to return to you. Not because you confront her, not because you argue, but because you finally understand the game. Manipulation only works when you don't know it's happening. Awareness dissolves it on contact. And the moment clarity enters, the spell breaks. She expected you to keep dancing to the rhythm she set. Nope. You finally heard the music for what it was and decided you would no longer move to someone else's tune. Detachment isn't coldness. It isn't punishing. It isn't shutting down. It's the quiet decision to stop letting someone else control the temperature of your inner world. When you begin to detach emotionally, everything changes. Not because you stop caring, but because you stop over-airing. You stop absorbing every shift in her behavior as if it defines your worth. You stop reacting to every moment of silence as if it's a crisis. You stop chasing explanations for things that were designed to keep you uncertain. Emotional detachment is when a man steps out of the storm and realizes he was never meant to drown in someone else's chaos. And she feels that shift instantly. Your tone becomes calmer. Your responses slower, your presence heavier, but quieter. The things that once triggered you barely move you now. The confusion that once controlled you loses its power. You begin to see her patterns not as emotional earthquakes, but as small tremors that no longer shake your foundation. And here's the truth. Manipulation cannot latch onto a grounded man. It cannot influence someone who isn't emotionally reactive. It cannot survive when the target refuses to internalize every provocation. By detaching, you do something she never expected. You disrupt the entire system. The hooks lose their grip. The cycle loses its rhythm. The game loses its effect. She didn't expect you to reach this level of inner stillness. Nope. Your calm became unshakable. Your clarity became armor. And for the first time, she realized you were no longer someone she could sway with confusion or pull back with intensity. You became a man governed by truth, not by emotional manipulation. The moment you stopped reacting emotionally, the entire script flipped and she felt it. Manipulation relies on predictable responses. It needs you to feel anxious when she withdraws, guilty when she blames you, relieved when she gives affection, and fearful when she threatens distance. But now, none of it lands the way it used to. Her silence no longer creates panic. Her coldness no longer makes you chase. Her sudden sweetness no longer blinds you to the pattern. And this is where everything changes. Not because you confronted her, but because you became immune to the emotional levers she used to pull. She starts to notice instantly. The tactics that once kept you hooked begin to fall flat. The guilt trips feel empty. The mixed signals lose their charm. The tension she creates doesn't move your spirit like before. Suddenly, she's the one feeling uncertain. She's the one wondering why her usual patterns aren't working. She's the one questioning whether she ever really understood you at all. And here's the twist. When someone realizes they no longer have influence over your emotions, they often escalate. They may get louder, colder, kinder, unpredictable, anything to regain the control they're losing. But nope, you don't bend this time. You don't break. You don't chase. You stand still, grounded, centered, watching the waves crash without being pulled under. Her loss of control isn't about dominance. It's about you reclaiming sovereignty over your own mind, your own heart, your own peace. And once you step into that power, she can never control you the same way again. There's a powerful transformation that happens when you stop allowing someone else's emotions, moods, or inconsistencies to dictate your behavior. You begin to rise into your own self-authority. This is the point where your identity no longer bends around the approval of others, where your standards stop being negotiable, where your boundaries stop being forgotten every time someone gives you attention. Becoming a man of self-authority means you return to yourself. You begin making decisions from clarity instead of fear. You start valuing your time, energy, and peace as if they are sacred, because they are. You shift from emotionally reactive to strategically responsive. You stop asking, "What will she think?" and start asking, "What aligns with who I'm becoming?" And that shift is monumental because a man who governs himself cannot be governed by manipulation. Your frame strengthens, your mission sharpens, your purpose becomes louder than your desire to be liked. The things that once pulled you off your path now barely register because you've anchored yourself in discipline, direction, and internal stability. She never expected you to reach this level of self-possession. She built her influence on the belief that you needed her approval, needed her affection, needed her consistency. But nope, you replaced dependence with discipline. You replaced emotional chaos with clarity. You replaced chasing with choosing. That's when you stop being the man she could manipulate and become the man she now has to respect, whether she likes it or not. Silence becomes a different kind of power once you evolve beyond the need to defend yourself, explain yourself, or chase someone's shifting emotions. Your silence is no longer a gap in communication. It's a statement of self-respect. It's the refusal to participate in conversations designed to confuse you. It's the decision to withdraw your energy from dynamics that no longer serve you. And she feels this shift immediately. The silent treatment she once weaponized suddenly loses its force because you don't react to it anymore. Instead of panicking, you carry on with your life. Instead of flooding her with messages, you stay composed. Instead of internalizing her distance, you stay steady within yourself. And this changes the entire dynamic. Your silence exposes everything she tried to hide behind emotional noise. It reveals the manipulation. It reveals the games. It reveals the tactics you were once too emotionally invested to see. Silence forces her to sit with her own behavior without you cushioning it, without you apologizing for things you didn't do, without you trying to hold the relationship together by yourself. When a man becomes calm, controlled, and quiet, he becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability terrifies anyone who once relied on controlling the emotional rhythm. She didn't expect your silence to become strength. She didn't expect your calm to become clarity. She didn't expect your distance to become dignity. But nope, you're no longer responding to emotional tugafoir. You're no longer being pulled into her cycles. Your silence rewrote the entire story. And for the first time, she has to face the fact that the man she could once manipulate has evolved into someone she no longer knows how to navigate. When manipulation stops working, a strange shift happens, one she never prepared for. First comes confusion. She can't understand why you're no longer jumping when she pulls away, why her silence doesn't make you chase, why her sudden warmth doesn't snap you back into emotional submission. She notices the emotional gap growing, a gap she didn't create intentionally, but one she never expected to feel so sharply. Then comes frustration, not anger at you, but anger at the loss of control. She'll try to provoke emotional reactions she used to get with ease, subtle jabs, distant replies, sudden mood swings, even fake vulnerability. But nothing works. It's like trying to move a mountain with a whisper. The power she once had slips through her fingers, and she doesn't know how to regain it. And finally, curiosity, the most telling shift of all. She starts watching you instead of directing you. She studies your tone, your calm, your new boundaries. She wonders what changed inside you. She wonders who you're becoming. She wonders if she ever truly understood your strength at all. And the truth is, she didn't. She confused your kindness for weakness. She mistook your patience for neediness. She interpreted your love as a lack of options. But nope, you weren't weak. You were unawakened. And now that you see clearly, now that you stand firmly, now that you've become emotionally sovereign, she realizes she never had control over you. She only had control over the version of you that didn't know his power yet. Her confusion is the ashes of the old dynamic. Her frustration is the collapse of her tactics. Her curiosity is the beginning of her respect, and she feels all of it because the man she could once manipulate has now become the man who moves on his own terms. There is a level of growth where you don't just resist manipulation, you outgrow it completely. Not because you've become hardened, not because you've become bitter, but because you've become aware. Stoic resilience isn't about winning the game. It's about refusing to play a game that was designed to keep you small, reactive, and uncertain of yourself. When you rise beyond manipulation, you're no longer interested in emotional tug-off war. You're no longer pulled in by drama, guilt, passive aggression, or sudden affection meant to reel you back in. You begin to move through life with clarity, intention, and a deeper sense of self-worth that cannot be shaken by someone else's inconsistency. You stop arguing, you stop over-explaining, you stop negotiating your boundaries, you stop absorbing emotional chaos that isn't yours. And most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable. That's what true emotional power looks like. It's quiet, it's steady, it's immovable. The man you are becoming now isn't simply harder to manipulate. He's impossible to reach with manipulation. You're operating on a higher plane, guided by values, purpose, and inner stability. She might still try the old tactics. She might still send mixed signals, test your reactions, or sprinkle affection to see if you'll crumble. But nope, you're past that phase. You don't fall for cycles you had to climb out of. You don't return to versions of yourself you had to destroy. You don't let anyone pull you into places you've already outgrown. Rising beyond manipulation means rising into a different man entirely, one rooted in strength, self-awareness, and unshakable calm. And once you reach this stage, nobody can ever drag you back down. What you've stepped into now is more than strength. It's sovereignty. You've become a man who can no longer be steered by someone else's moods, someone else's silence, or someone else's emotional tactics. You've reclaimed the territory of your own mind, your own heart, your own direction. And that's the moment a man becomes truly dangerous. Not because he seeks conflict, but because he cannot be controlled. The version of you she once manipulated was a man still learning himself, still searching, still uncertain. But that man is gone now. In his place stands someone grounded, aware, deliberate, a man who sees patterns clearly, sets boundaries firmly, and rises quietly. This is Stoic resilience. This is the strength she never expected. This is the calm that cannot be influenced, the clarity that cannot be shaken, the resilience that cannot be penetrated by mixed signals or emotional chaos. You've become the man who chooses instead of chases, who observes instead of reacts, who leads instead of follows. And once a man reaches this level of self-command, the world responds differently. People respect you differently. You respect yourself differently. Your life begins to align with the highest version of who you were meant to be. If this message spoke to you, make sure you like the video, drop a comment below, and subscribe with notifications on to join the ranks of the Stoic soldiers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your strength. And thank you for rising into the manipulation can no longer reach. Your ascension has already begun.